원이 무료 배포 중입니다. 약 3만원 꿀템이에요. 쉽고 빠르게 리드미컬한 퍼커션을 만들 수 있습니다. 드럼 패턴과 함께 레이어에서 사용하면 좀 더 풍부한 드럼 패턴을 찍을 수 있어요. 조역도 간단하고 사용법도 쉬워서 초보자 강추입니다. 다운받는 법은 더보기에 있어요. 버추얼 베이시스트 번들 2가 66% 할인 중입니다. UJAM 불프 세일이 최대 85% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요. 호라이즌 번들이 92% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가예요. 90개 이상의 플러그인이 들어있습니다. 컴프, EQ, 리미터, 리버브 등 다양한 꿀템이 많아요. 믹마 종결자 패키지입니다. 사운드가 밋밋한 분들이 사용하면 레알 꿀입니다. 웨이브스 불프 세일이 최대 92% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
I really like the way it saturates those guitars and kind of brings some life into them. Then the other Kramer plugins you get are the HLS, which is like a Helios channel strip plugin. And then you also get the Kramer Pi, which is like the Pi PYE compressor. And another highlight for me are the 8 Renaissance plugins that you get in this bundle. You get the Renaissance EQs. There's also the Renaissance de-esser that you can see I'm using here. And there's the R bass or Renaissance bass plugin. Plus there's several other Renaissance plugins that you get in this bundle, and they're all great. And these next plugins are very cool. They're the bass rider and the vocal rider. You can see here I have the bass rider. Let's just play this back. And what that does is it emulates riding a fader on your bass guitar track. So similar to a compressor, but it doesn't have the coloration that.
토탈이 49% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가예요. 레알 이펙트 꿀템입니다. 프리셋을 돌려가면 사운드에 먹이면 꿀이에요. 신스, 드럼, 베이스 등 다양한 악기에 걸 수 있습니다. 트렌디한 장르하신 분들에게 강추해요. 아웃풋 불프 세일이 최대 50% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
100. Just keep in mind with the randomness, you just want to do a little bit. You don't really want to go too crazy with it. And some of these controls, you don't want randomness at all. Like I said earlier, just experiment. Next, this offset control will actually control the start point of the grains after the first grain if you have more than one. So this countdown here, if you had this at 1, then this offset knob wouldn't do anything. But if you have it more than 1 at all, this offset knob ends up changing things. I'm going to play this right now. You'll hear the grains kind of slide out of place after the first one. And you can see that you can actually link this to the density. So now your offset is a ratio of whatever your density value is. So if this offset ratio is 1 to 1, then it's going to be synced with the density, 1/16. If it was 1 to 2, then it would be 1/32 instead of 1/16. And if it was up to 2 to 1, then it would be 1/8 instead of 1/16. I'd probably recommend using these link knobs whenever you can and syncing them to a musical tempo rather than just freeform hertz, because you'll get a lot more of a rhythmic sound like that. So next you have the size, and this is the size of the audio grains that are being sampled. And once again, you have the link function, which will act the same with a ratio to that density. So this just allows you to adjust the length of time of the individual grains. And then once again, you have
X-Echo가 87% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가예요. 레알 딜레이 꿀템입니다. 보컬 믹싱할 때 쓰면 좋아요. 와우, 플러터, 디퓨전 등을 조절해 원하는 공간감을 만들 수 있습니다. SSL이라 믿고 쓸만해요. SSL 불프 세일이 최대 89% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요. 클라로가 85% 할인 중입니다. 레알 믹만 꿀템이에요. 해당 음역들을 깔끔하게 정리할 수 있습니다. 보컬, 피아노, 베이스, 스트링 등 다양한 파트에 걸 수 있어요. 초보자분들에게 추천드립니다. 옥스포드 인플레이터가 81% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
Now, to understand how the plugin works, we can best go through the 3 tabs on this plugin. The 3 tabs are basically a different interface or a different workflow for the same EQ. The Produce tab will give you a very straightforward EQ method, not completely unlike having a bass, mid and treble dial on an amp. This will get you started very nicely. Fortunately, it's way more flexible than just having a bass, mid and treble control. When you hover over one of the big dials, a circle with frequencies will show up. Click on any of them to select a frequency, and you can see the frequency slider up here also jumps. If you use this slider, you can set the frequency more precisely. Now, when you go back to the big control and move up or down, you will boost or reduce the chosen frequency.
크리스탈라인이 50% 할인 중입니다. 레알 리버브 꿀템이에요. 유니크한 사운드 디자인을 쉽고 빠르게 할 수 있습니다. 프리셋으로 본인 곡에 알맞은 패턴을 찾고 수정하면 좋아요. 직관적인 믹싱을 할 수 있게 도와줍니다. 스파클2가 85% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
The more you turn it up, the longer it will take for the reverb to start after your sound goes in. This is useful to establish the size of your room. The greater the distance from a sound source to a reflecting wall, the longer it will take the reflection to travel to your ear. So if you increase the pre-delay, the room will sound bigger. At the same time, the sound source will sound closer to the listener. So start or pre-delay is also great to position your sounds in the mix. And lets you define the length or decay of the reverb. The further you turn it